Gonna load. Okay, we are live,
Okay.
please. Welcome to the Dysfunction That Is My channel. I've been watching YouTube recently. We are here for our June book pick of the month, Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers, to celebrate Pride Month. It is actually Pride Month celebration going on in New York and in LA today. Yeah, so an inadequate time for this live show. We see some people coming in. We're just gonna let it roll in while we're talking about our initial thoughts before reading this book. What do we go into this book thinking or vibing out? We'll go alphabetical order. So, Ace, you want to go?
I go first.
Alphabetical order. Words.
Okay. Wait. My thoughts before I read the book.
Yeah.
Honestly, I had no idea what this book was gonna be about. I just heard that it was sapphic, and that was enough to convince me to pick it up. And I will say that it met my expectations. So, yeah.
Hello. We're just going through our initial thoughts before reading the book right now. Alrighty, Blake, what were your initial thoughts? Oh, let me fix
I just knew that a lot of people really loved it, and so I just thought it was going to be good. Yeah, those were my vibes going in. I kind of knew it was about like she kind of starts off getting married in Vegas. I thought that was gonna be a larger part of the book. Like I thought we were gonna the first part of the book was gonna be in Vegas, but it's fine. And yeah, those were the vibes.
All right, Matthew.
I thought that the cover was very indicative of the current, contemporary romance trend. So I was expecting very similar vibes to all of the current books that are being published. I knew it was a Book of the Month Club pick, so I assumed it would be very commercial, very mass appeal. And I know a lot of people loved it, which generally makes me skeptical. So I was very skeptical going into this book, just given the immense amount of praise I saw for it.
Shiva was funny. Gremlins that are told dogs. Okay, my thoughts before going into it. I was lurking Goodreads and stalking Bookstagram and whatnot, and there was so much hype around this book, which is another Matthew was saying, ooh, what's going on? What should I do? Should I read it now or read later? And I've been talking to Mina. I'm like, hey, so Honey Girl, did you like? She's like, I loved it. There wasn't much romance. Just a very not nonfiction, contemporary book. I was like, okay, it might be a vibe, after reading a lot of fantasy. Yeah, I don't want to spoil too much about my thoughts. Those are my thoughts going into it. All right. Let's see. What did we think of the writing style? I thoroughly liked it a little bit, the writing style at least. Ace?
Yeah.
Or Matthew? We're still going alphabetical because Matthew can go first if he wants.
Yeah, if you want to, yeah.
I always go. I don't know. I always have an answer ready to go.
All right, go, Matthew. You got it.
No, I liked the writing style. I thought I described it. I wrote a little review on my Instagram. I described it as cozy but caffeinated. It was very brisk. It was very light. But there was a lot of sentimentality. There was a lot of everything felt kind of like a lesson or a moral. I liked that. The sentences were short. I liked that it just moved. So I think the writing was, for the genre, right on point.
Ace?
I don't know how I feel about it because it does feel really light and easy to read through. And there are some moments where I feel like it was really trying to be deep, which I didn't mind. It kind of moved me a bit. But at the same time, I didn't really see anything special about it except that it was really easy to read through. So yeah.
And remember Blake saying in the Discord that he was having trouble with the prose because of being in first person. Is that what it was?
No, it's in present tense.
Yeah,
because a lot of books are in past tense, and so this, because I write scripts and read a lot of scripts, and so scripts are in present tense, so that was really interesting. It took me a couple chapters to realize that it was in present tense, because I was like, something feels weird about this, and I was like, oh, it's in present tense, that's why. I didn't like the prose.
Too much, or in the presentation, what specifically was it?
I just thought I don't think it was doing for me what I think it was trying to do. I will have to say the dialogue really grated on me. after a while, like just because it was very like 2014 Tumblr and not how real people like interact with each other, and like that's fine to like there were like scenes that I did like, but then there would be this language and like the like sentimentality in those scenes, but then stretched out through the whole book. And I'm like, I feel like it would have been more effective if it was just like in this scene, because like it makes sense for this scene, rather than like it just became to the point where like there were certain motifs and things that I was like, I thought it was like really strong in one moment, but then it was kind of dragged out for so long that I just like stopped caring about like that motif. Like for example, one that I thought was really powerful at first was like the bit about lonely creatures. The first time that popped up, I was like, wow, this is really nice, really strong encapsulation of the theme. And then it was mentioned every 5 pages, and I was just like done with it.
Yeah, at some point especially within a book this, short, you have to realize when you can pull on those moments and those what do you call them, phrases and jokes or inside jokes of the book, because sometimes it gets overdone within this many pages of a book. What do we think of the beginning? So just like there's a pivotal like beginning moment, and there's like a pivotal second moment. What do we think of the beginning with understanding our character, understanding the family, the dad, and like the post-doc life that she was living?
So for me, this like, first of all, I'm gonna say what I gave this book. I gave this book a 3 stars.
You're nice.
And for most of this book, it was like a 2-star for me. Like the first half of this book, I was not really a fan of. It wasn't until we hit like the second half that I really started to connect with it. And we can talk that more like in the spoiler bit. But yeah, I was not a fan of like the first half, but I did really enjoy a lot of the moments and the bits in the second half.
Oh, I am the exact opposite. I gave this book 2 stars. I loved the first half. I thought it was so silly, so fun. I loved this premise. I thought the idea of them getting married in Vegas, but like then trying to make it work was like I thought it was just that was like the most nuanced take of the book's larger theme of loneliness that I found in the book. Because from that point on, it just got heavier and more heavier-handed. It got more like spoon-fed to the audience of like, this is what the book's about. And I got more and more frustrated because I felt like we lost direction. Because I was willing to buy into like the rom-com of the beginning. Like I was ready for it to be this like fluffy, cozy, cute moment and like a little melancholy. But like eventually we got to a place where I'm just like, this is trying to be something that it could never be, and I'm mad about it. So hopefully I didn't spoil everything yet, but like I love the first half. I thought the first half was so strong, especially for the genre and the type of book I thought we were going to get.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same way too. Like the first half was really strong for me, and then eventually like a lot of like, the concepts and whatnot, and like the themes of it were, I feel like we're getting very dragged on, and like the other half was just, it was not as strong for me, and I just couldn't, honestly it was kind of hard to get through at some point, but I still pushed through because I really thought it was still kind of cute. It's just, it was getting a bit repetitive.
You might even go on the head with the spoonfulness of what the book was supposed to be, and the fact that he said that exact word was what all the Goodreads reviews that I was looking at were saying. Because when I finished this book, I was like sitting there for 30 minutes, like, wait, what did I just consume? What did I just read and put in my brain to sit with feelings with? And I was like, I'm being spoon-fed a lot of things that I think would have been helpful if this book was in first person or third person omniscient to like help us understand those characters and help us ground the like flashback moments. Because when she's saying these things, I'm like, it's a third person limited, and it would help more if we just had this chapter of like, hey, in the past, here's a moment of her and her mom and having this moment. Hey, a past moment with her and her dad. It would help us ground that character who was Grace.
But like to Blake's point, I do think that the second half of the book would have been the better book. Like if we split it up into like two moments. Like, I think that family story, that story of like reckoning with your career and life and like that, I feel like that would have been, I hope this isn't spoiler territory. I think that would have been like the stronger book as opposed to the beginning, which I think was really strong for what it was. I gave this book 2 stars. Like, I didn't think it was good, but like I think I was willing to like suspend my disbelief for the first part of the book, but the second part was just too real, and therefore I didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was because I think I was talking to one of my friends who read it, and she said it felt more like a coming of age novel, like a in your 20s coming of age rather than a romance. And for me, that's where this book sits for me, because to be honest, I did not care about the romance. I didn't like the love interest. And we'll talk more about that. But but like, to me, I thought the strongest bits were actually her like talking about her career, her relationship with her family. And that's why I think the second half of the book felt really strong to me, is because it really went into that kind of coming of age, grappling with, I mean, maybe that's just because I'm relating to it right now, because like I just graduated college. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. And so like, I'm kind of, obviously she's more years in the future, but like I was able to latch on to that, I think, which is why I connected with that part of the book so much.
Mm-hmm. All right, now that we're trying to hint into some spoiler parts, let's get into the spoiler section.
Wait, before we get into spoilers, we should all go around and say star ratings, and they're like 3 stars.
I've hinted at it, and y'all have been very, very generous with this book. I'm giving it a 1 star.
1 star.
1. I was not expecting 1.
No, we'll get into it why, but child, I was pissed. Pissed is not even the word to describe the feelings that I felt throughout this book.
I think I said that I gave it a 2 star. I think like, were this book marketed to me differently, I would have given it 3. Like, if I had known it was more like Blake was talking about, like a coming of age or like a kind of like reckoning with your place in life story, I think I would have rated it higher, because that would have been an expectation going in. But because it was kind of pitched as like this romance, I had a different set of expectations. So that's why it's 2 for me. I don't think I will remember this book within a week, like what happened or what I felt about it. Like, it's not staying on my shelves. Sorry.
I think, well, like I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads, but like I think on Storygraph, I think I'm gonna give it like a 2.5. Like, it's more that for me, but like rounded up to a 3 star just because of the end, like the ending bit. But yeah, it's more of a 2.5.
I gave mine 3.5, but I wanted to give it 3, and now I want to give it 2.5. I'm collecting my thoughts more, okay? Like, the initial feeling was, that was a solid 3 stars, but I'll be nice and give it 3.5 because I still enjoyed it a bit. But now, like, fully knowing what I read and just the feeling after, I'm like, this is a 2.5. I can't.
Okay.
We're going to talk things down to a 1 by the end of this.
Okay, I just want to preface this by saying that I did not know her mom was white and her dad was black in this book. So when we found out that her mom was white, I said, oh, that's why she thinks that she can get away with being who she is in the world. Because she didn't have that, not reminder, but she didn't have the talk with her parents, from what this book told me. And when I think the reason why she's mad at her mom is because her mom gets to live out in the world, go out into the world and be herself. Whereas with Grace, she's constantly reminded that she is black. Not that she is light skinned. It's colorism that allowed her to get into these spaces and get that life, but it's racism that's keeping her. I'm not erasing bits. That's why I was like, oh, this book is making me really mad, because she didn't have that talk. She didn't have, like, if you look at it, strong black woman in this book was horrible.
Tiana, I think that's a really important thing to bring up first, because this book does talk about it, but like it doesn't really talk about it. Like, I think like there are moments where it talks about like
in detail,
like offhandedly talking about microaggression, or offhandedly talking about like her place in like her career path, like, and it didn't feel. I either wanted more or less of it, to be honest. Like, I either wanted these characters to exist in like a cozy world and I could, again, suspend my disbelief, you know, and think of it that way. Or maybe it could have been like more realistic and like she like talked about it and like that was a pivotal like part of the conversation. But it was caught in this middle ground of like, almost like the author felt obligated need to talk about race as a theme in her book, as opposed to that just being a natural part of the world in which we live. And I wonder if it's a matter of like the age demographic she was going for because she knows that that is like what readers are very interested in right now, or if she felt obligated herself, or maybe she wanted to tackle more and just didn't quite have the chops to like integrate it into the book that she wrote. And I think because it's there, like it is there, like that is in this book. That is a conversation that happens in this book, but like not successfully, I don't think.
That's how I was like, girl, just say why you're mad. Say why you're mad at your mom. She could be white and you couldn't. And that's okay. And that is A-okay. Why? Because she will not have to understand what it's like to push through and conquer what is to be Black women in society. And the reason why I think that the author was tiptoeing around is because we had the Dominicans, we had people who were brown. And I was like, okay, well, we're trying to have this inclusivity here. We're not going to talk about the big race card. And no, we gotta talk about it. We gotta talk about it because her dad, already being a military dad, is a whole trauma within itself. Add being light skin on top of that, and then being seen as a Black person on top of that was a whole different. Like we could have opened this can of worms, but we didn't.
Yeah. But even on the road trip, sorry, I'm like, sorry. On the road trip, I just want to point this out. Like on the road trip when they're going to that lake, and one of her says like, "Wake me up when we get there," or "Systemic oppression ends." That was the line, or was very close to that. I was just like, what are we trying to do here? Like, who's
I think
nobody?
So here, I have some thoughts about the racial politics in this book. Number one, with this, and I haven't read One Last Stop yet, but there's this like trend of making the love interest Asian because they're sexy and mysterious and interesting. Hate that shit. Number one. Number two, there was like a couple. I forget what the line was, but she like makes like a joke about like her Asianness, and then the main character's like, "Is this okay to laugh at?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's okay." But and I was like,
I remember what you're talking about. It was like
it's weird to have like an author of color like make a racial joke at another race's like expense and then be like, "Oh, it's okay." Like that just felt weird to me. Number one, and number two, like a lot of the characters just kind of floated in and out as just like a representation of, oh, this is your trans Indian character, this is the Black male character, this is the token white guy, this is the like there was diversity in this book, but there like it didn't really feel like there were characters attached to their identities. They kind of came in, said, "Hello, I'm this identity," and they kind of left the story. And I felt that was a little bit, it just felt off. It felt like she was trying to give us the kind of like woke version of Friends or like New Girl, but then like without actually putting in the work to make that happen.
I will say this loud and clear. New Girl has some very fetishization of Asian shit too that I clocked earlier, and I just want to put that out there. Because when I watched it again, I was like, this was allowed to air? What the hell?
I haven't seen it in years, so I honestly don't remember. But
it's not bad. But yeah, with that whole, when I met the Indigenous guy, I was like, sir, maybe just like, because you got a 10 or you don't know what you're talking about, let's bring it down to a 5 and educate ourselves what we're actually saying. Because we're getting into this whole diaspora of like not having land, living on a reservation, and I'm just like, please know what you're saying. It just, you know how like when lawyers watch Legally Blonde, and it's like a whole bunch of jargon thrown at you to make you sound like you're a lawyer in the movie? That's what it felt like when he was saying this whole like, you don't know what Egyptian whatever the thing was. I was like, sir, no, it's okay.
Well, like, and that, like, I think it's an incorrect expectation to assume that every person depicted in this book is going to have a thorough and accurate understanding of their heritage, history, and culture. Like, that's just not indicative of real life. But with the framing of a lot of the conversation that this book tries to tackle, I kind of do expect a little bit more from these like young, if a character is going to say, "Wake me up" whenever systemic oppression ends, I need that character to have like some sort of really impressive knowledge about systemic oppression.
Right.
Because if that's your quip, if that's your joke, if that's your thing, and that's the only part of your personality that we're apparently going to get in this book, I need it. Like, I need it to happen.
For me, I think I like there. I think the best like diverse characters in this book where I didn't feel like it was forced was Raj. I thought he was a great character, like a great supporting character, where like his like relationship to Grace and like all his storyline did not like revolve around his identity or like his race. It was just there, and I was like, that was like I liked that, and I was like, I wish that the other characters had gotten like kind of similar treatments like Raj. Even her friends Agatha and Zamina, like there was like a little bit of characterization in the beginning, but they kind of like disappeared for most of the book. And then it kind of came in, and I was like, I don't really care about you guys.
I was gonna argue that too, because it's like they're supposed to be super close. Like she emphasizes how she loves them so much, but then like we don't really see that relationship for like throughout the entire book.
Mm-hmm.
And like I don't feel like their friendship as much as I do with like Raj and Mira.
Mm-hmm.
One of my biggest things about like the format of this book, because the whole like jip of falling in love in Vegas, like that was a whole catalytic event of her like getting to this Zooey moment of going to therapy and figuring out her depression, and trigger warning for self-harm throughout the book. I wish that we had time to like establish, hey, we have this found family here in Portland, and we work at a tea shop, yada yada, and my family's sending me off to Vegas, and then we see what happens in Vegas. Then we see the fallout, what happens in Vegas. I wish that would have been the whole book, but I feel like, as we were saying, it's two parts of this book that clash together and mush together under 300 pages.
I mean, I'm kind of, I disagree with like the need for backstory. Like, I feel like the introduction of backstory is one of the problems. Like when they talk about her and how she got about to going to Vegas, I was like, why is this part of the conversation? Again, when I read like a genre book, I am willing to suspend my disbelief. If we start in Vegas, cool, we're starting in Vegas. If these characters are both feeling isolated and lonely enough to be willing to take a shot at a marriage that otherwise makes absolutely no sense, I'm willing to buy into that. Like, I think that that's like beautiful. Mm-hmm. But instead we have to like establish like here's something that pissed me off about Yuki's characterization, because I do think Yuki could have a very strong character, but whenever they go to this lake and nothing happens and they have their little conversation, and then in the car ride home, Grace talks to one of Yuki's friends, who then dissects Yuki's relationship to loneliness for her. I don't think that that's strong in any way, because I'm sorry, like, you're telling me that this beautiful examination of loneliness culminates between these two characters, and that's why they're trying to make it work. But any examination or like unpacking of that happens not on those characters' behalf. Like Yuki,
and also,
like,
how shitty of a friend how shitty a friend do you have to be to tell your own friend's business? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is
this psychoanalysis like nonsense? First of all, yeah, exactly. But then like also it's just like that should have been like, imagine how beautiful that scene would have been if it were Yuki and Grace having that conversation and like discovering this about each other, or even Grace coming to that realization on her own. The fact that it was explicitly and obtusely, clownishly, directly spoken to her, I was so pissed. It made me so mad.
How did you do that? I understood Vegas so much less. We found out her dad gave her the trip. Just like, why? Why did he give her a trip to Vegas?
Yeah.
Like, you know what would have been a good place to go? I don't know, to the Orange Patch to see your mom that you've been not seeing for the past decade or so. Like, that would have been a good trip. No. You know how much of a shitty person you got to be to ask your mom that you barely see to officiate her wedding? That felt a little cheap. I was like, yeah, we go to therapy and healing and all, but you want me to be your officiant of your wedding?
I didn't necessarily mind that, because I felt more of a connection between Grace and her mom than I did between Grace and her dad. Like, I did not care about the Colonel. Like, he was just, it just felt like, I mean, like, I understand, like, they were, trying to go for the rough parenting, like the strict parenting and the, all that kind of stuff. But it was just like, it was almost cartoonish how
Very real though.
like it
Very
was.
real. I have a military. It was very real for me.
Okay, well, I mean, yeah, I can't speak to that experience.
Trauma right now. But yes, when I read it, I was like, oh yeah, Sometimes military dad as well. So like we understand the trauma it is to have one of those. And when he was like, she was always like, yes, sir. No, sir.
Fell.
Yeah, it did. It's okay. You were saying that what you were gonna say, Matthew?
No, I was gonna say like I think that I kind of agree with Blake that the relationship with her mother I found more interesting because less about it was said. Like there was less about it that was like explicitly explored, whereas like everything with her dad was very much laid out for us. That conversation on the phone was like A to B, C to D, like it was very overt. And that's not unrealistic, but it's just less exciting because it's done for us. There's no work that we get to do in diving in. Whereas I feel like the relationship with the mother, there was kind of like more for us to put in ourselves and like relate to on that way. And perhaps like that little element of like just that lighter touch makes it more interesting as a reader for me at least.
Mm-hmm. But Blake, back to what you were saying about the dad was, or did your train of thought?
No, that was pretty much it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it just like there are so many like bits that like I would be like reading and I was like, okay, I kind of like that, but then it just nothing really stuck with me. Like, I mean, I finished the book like a couple hours ago, and it's all already pretty much gone. And like, it's like one of those things that like, I don't know, this felt very much like a debut novel, and like nothing against debut novels, but like, you know, I there are some debut novels that are fucking fantastic, but like this to me, it felt like a beginning for this author, and like I would be interested to read other novels by them, but I don't know. The concept would have to really hook me because I don't know.
I think she can do a rom-com novel, and I think she can do a contemporary novel. I just think she tried to blend those two in this book, and the execution wasn't that well. Mm-hmm. And then also, if your tagline for your book is gonna be is a queer Black millennial, you need to have your millennial have Black parents. I'm sorry, because I clocked her bullshit a mile away.
I don't know if have to is. I think that it could be executed in multiple ways. I just don't think that this particular story was successful.
No.
I'm curious if I may diverge the conversation. The whole theme of like monsters and this whole like yokai thing. How do we feel about it?
Hated
I'm
it.
Just curious.
Fucking hate it. Okay, like it felt very much like I like anime, so I did a couple Google searches about Japanese myths and put it in my book.
I think you feel a little differently.
Okay, at first I really enjoyed it because I thought it was interesting. Like, honestly, that was the only part I found interesting because I was like, oh, I actually like mythology. That's it. But I didn't like the part where she was connecting it to like being lonely or whatever because I'm like, oh, I don't really care about that. I just want to hear about the mythology.
Yeah, I was like, I would turn off her podcast. I was like, I'm here for the facts and the myths and not your like personal bullshit. Like,
see, okay, so I'm kind of maybe we are agreeing, but like would solve it in a different way. Like, I enjoyed the fact that Yuki had these like really profound considerations of what it means to be lonely and like these variations and versions of what that means. I just don't necessarily think like the stories of yokai was like the best way to do that. Especially when like, I don't know, I feel like it's irreverent to throw that in, but then also like have a character who's willing to like dive into a random lake for 5 hours because a viewer said that there was a monster there. So like the combination of like that kind of like faux thing with like an actually like historical, analyzed, embedded culture, mythology, like it feels a little, we can't have the best of both worlds to me, or at least not
also,
in the book that we've written.
Why the fuck can't she believe in monsters? Why the fuck can she not actually fucking go monster hunting and it doesn't have to be some explanation for her loneliness? Like, bitch, I want to go cryptid hunting. Sign me the fuck up. Like,
I'm not gonna lie. Yuki is really just a manic pixie girl, dream pixie girl, and it bothers me so much.
No. She's an Asian manic pixie
Yeah,
dream
that's
girl.
what makes it even worse for me because I feel like a lot of Asians are portrayed that way, and it was bothering me so much. And then the fact
Yeah.
like they were joking about like, oh, some of her Asianness or whatever, and it I don't know, it just made me so
I did not fuck with
uncomfortable at
that.
times. But yeah, that was her whole role in the book, and I didn't like that because I thought we would delve more into their relationship. Like, oh wait, what does this comment say?
I love the relationship between Grace and all the side characters. I thought the intimate ways that the author wrote about how they interacted was well done and that they made the story for me.
Yeah, well,
That's good.
for some of the side characters, but her relationship with Yuki was not well done at all, in my opinion. Like, I did not see any build up, even though she was supposedly there the entire summer. Like, we did not see that. And they
we see so much.
me. Like I was like, she was there the entire summer. I thought she was only there for a week.
Yeah. So when it's her birthday, right? And she's like, we have a surprise for you, and she means we as like your roommate. She's like, no, you're friends. You've been here the entire summer. And I was like, okay, well they didn't feel like friends. We didn't have those funny moments. We didn't bond at the lake. Yeah. Doing our friends' business. Exactly. They're in New York. They didn't do nothing in New York. Like, you were in New York and you didn't do like New York shit. Get the fuck out of my face. And it would have been fun. It would have been like a fun like culture war thing to do like the whole coffee shop or tea shop like, you know, bit. That would have been like a funny thing because I'm just like, you're in New York where like the coffee and bagels are good. Why wouldn't you just? They go no.
That was a waste of money.
Continue.
Yeah, there was just no romantic buildup whatsoever.
I think the lake would have been a good romantic buildup.
And I also like what kind of makes me grumpy is like if this book, okay, so like this is a queer story, and queer people's relationships to marriage is very different than a lot of people's. And I thought that there was something beautiful and irreverent and fun about the fact that these two people got married in an unconventional way and were actually trying to make that work. And I think that is a very queer examination of relationship and marriage, that like they're willing to try this thing and not hold marriage to this like absurd standard that a lot of straight people do. And I think that could have been a really cool, interesting book to read, but that wasn't the book we got because Yuki wasn't there. Like, the fact that they were married wasn't a plot point at all.
It really wasn't.
Sort of was, but like
it really wasn't. It should have been. And that's what was like a little frustrating to me too, is because like I did kind of enjoy the unconventionality of like them being married and like their relationship, like Matthew said. Like I did like that. But I don't think like Yuki really had a character arc or character development outside of her relationship to Grace. And it was like really frustrating because it was like, you don't have anything else other than that, like you're a monster too. Like nothing
the book could have
else
happened without Yuki. This book could have entirely happened without Yuki existing. And that's
it
problem.
Kind of did.
But then also it's just like I don't know. It just
Someone said that on Goodreads. Someone said that Yuki was okay with continuing the marriage because she was a lonely monster, and the reason why Grace continued marriage is because she wanted someone that would believe in her and like follow her plans with her. And I was like, "Oh, that's you right there. Let's get into it."
Like, I want to read that book, though. I want to read that book. Like, that is an interesting book, and we didn't get that book. That's not the book that this is.
It's not.
I mean, like, who also like what? There was no discussion. She just like shows up and then boom, she's living with them for like 4 months. Like
rent free at that. Rent fucking free.
Most unrealistic part about the book.
Didn't buy groceries. Like for me, if I'm staying like multiple nights with you, I'm at least paying for one breakfast, one lunch, one dinner.
Tea in the comments.
What, this?
No, that one.
I like their relationship best when they were texting and yes, maybe because it's more sense that Yuki wasn't fleshed out when she wasn't. Yes.
Literally, she was more of a character when she wasn't on screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's true.
Because she had time to develop her thoughts and it wasn't cringy being in front of her wife.
Honestly, her whole character was really cringy.
This is really like random, but like. What scene was it before they had sex? Like, that was just such a random transition. I think it was on her birthday.
Yeah.
Like, I felt kind of weird about it because suddenly they were just making out after their conversation.
There was
I
no
don't-
build up. There was no build up.
Yeah,
I
there
was
was no build.
I was like, if you're giving me romance, give me the tension, give me the build up. I want to
There
see
was
them
no
fucking hold
tension.
hands first, okay?
Intimacy.
Yeah, I felt the same. I was just like, wait, we just went from this and now she climaxing with her fingers in her pussy. Okay, calm down, bitch. Like, and also it was cheap because it was birthday sex. I was like,
Yeah.
birthday's last day to leave. Like last day curse, sure. If you watch Damon and Joe, you'll get last day curse. But at the same time, I'm just like, sis, we could have had a cute holding hand scene and like opening of the hearts at the lake, built up to that, have some fun in New York, and then we can get to the chitty chitty bang bang. But we had the whole like, no. And I was pissed.
Wow,
I hated it.
that was good.
No, okay. I think. So I have a question because my brain was like, I was reading this book on like 2.5 speed on Audible. Did Colonel have a wife or a partner?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Sharon.
Because I'm just like, where was their role in this? Like, why didn't we have a
Honestly,
relationship?
she felt more present than Colonel did. Like,
What I'm saying.
Wait,
We
I'm
need-
rereading this very quickly. Who the heck is Blue?
Who the fuck
she
is
was
Blue?
the radio girl.
Oh,
like, in
okay.
the
See,
station.
I don't even. That's how bad my.
Can we fix the therapy? Sorry for cutting you off. The therapy moments, it was so funny. I'm very like, do not mix therapy and religion into it. So when the guy was like, yeah, I believe in prayer, I believe in Jesus' name, I was like, sir, you at a level 25, back down to a 2. Like, know your
Yeah.
place in the world. We all the same. Please calm down.
Yeah, I know. Oh,
Religious trauma.
Yeah.
A lot to unpack.
no, yeah. It's like I don't want to get personal, but like I agree. I agree that that's a problem.
Oh, I'll get personal. When I
No, we don't need to. We don't need to. I think
It's
we can all
okay.
agree
No.
that like
Because when you trust someone who's gone through, years of degree, certification, hours training, and they say Bible, you're just like, I'm not reading that Bible. I'm really not.
I mean, the thing is, like, there are a lot of readers out there who would probably really enjoy and appreciate and find, strength in that sentiment. And I don't want to take that away from those readers. I personally, like, as a queer person,
Mhm.
this is a queer book. Those two things often don't go hand in hand.
Yeah.
I find it a very trepidous territory to be walking. Because otherwise it is unexplored. And I think alone, a queer person's relationship to religion alone is already like complex enough. Like especially like a Christian religion. So like to then
Yeah.
add therapy and like medication on top of it, it's just like that could be its own novel.
Right. To this comment, I'll get to my point. I understand that the therapists were kind of just meant to represent how hard it can be to find a good one or a good fit, but it really is obvious in my experience. Yes, I think it's harder to find the resources to get you into therapy than to find a good fit for you. That's been my experience, at least. So when I read the scenes, I was like, oh wow, she just went and said, I'm a lesbian, Black, this is what we gotta do. And she was like, honey, calm down. Like, let's talk first, and then we'll work through your stuff. One of the reviews that I was looking on Goodreads was mentioning how trigger warning for self-harm. So need a minute. Exit the room for a second. We have this mention of her like grabbing her wrist and scratching her wrist to the point where she's bleeding, and that whole using the pain to bring herself back to the present. That is a form of self-harm. So I was like, okay, well, why couldn't we get into that a little bit into our therapy sessions? Because that was a other major point of her thinking that she is sick.
She just wrote a book.
They do mention that
The biggest
she stopped
Yeah.
self-harming after her therapy, that she found like a new method to like channel that into where it's not self-harming. So like she worked through it off screen, I guess. I don't know. Grace is a character just like she didn't really work for me because she like I understood her like I understood her loneliness. I understood her feeling like she was working so hard for so long and what she did do next. But then like she was just like really entitled. Like,
Why? Because
so
she's a white mother. She thinks that she can get through life because she's no, I'm serious, because she is light skinned and she expects life to be given to her with pretty privilege and being light skinned. But then when she goes into the world, she's like, oh wait, racism still exists. Like they don't see that I'm lighter and I have a half white mom and a black dad. Like it's a Meghan Markle situation, I feel like. Honestly, because
but to Blake's point, I do think that like it is a problem when a character's largest struggle in therapy is simply telling other people that she's in therapy. Like that was a more nuanced, interesting, and well-explored moment of emotional turmoil than like what she was actually unpacking. Like,
right.
Which is probably going to be far deeper, far more profound, and far more dangerous. Like, I feel like instead it was just like her feeling scared to tell her father that she was in therapy. That was the more interesting plot point, and I just don't know if that should have been the more interesting plot point.
I feel like this book tried to like tackle so many things that the ending was very unsatisfying because of that. Like there's also that part where she's supposed to get, I think, lunch or breakfast with her dad, but we never see that. And then her and Yuki just get back together really quickly in the end. And so
Yuki's like fucking around in the orange groves with the flashlight. Yeah. And like, I'm over here waiting for you to come find me. I was like, girl, like what the fuck?
She had butterfly clips in her hair.
Everybody in this book like always had shit in their hair. I was like, y'all need to like wash your hair. They had flowers, like insects.
I don't know if she actually had butterfly clips. That was just a Manic Pixie Dream Girl joke, but
she probably did. That's the thing. She probably did.
It was probably real butterflies.
No. I think someone said it's like a 2014.
Honey, her hair. It's a metaphor. So that the butterfly. Sorry.
No, I said it's the 2014 Tumblr. That was the vibe of this entire book.
Yes, it was.
And I was immediately skeptical when in the first scene there's Monsta X playlist. I was like, okay, we're throwing in a little K-pop here. Where are we gonna go?
I'm not gonna lie.
Nowhere.
I forgot that this was gonna be like in like the 2020s or whatever, because I'm like, why aren't they using their phones? Or like, why wasn't she using her phone to find this girl? Are they in like 2006 or something?
You married
he like Googled the radio show and was like, looking. Also, fuck it, like, okay, I was so turned off at the start of this book, not gonna lie. Like, it was annoying as fuck to me, that letter that Yuki left. Are you fucking kidding me? I'm sorry, I'm angry. But like, she's like, follow my voice. Fuck you. Just leave your fucking phone number. And the fact that Grace didn't even remember her fucking name, I was like, are you kidding me? You got married to somebody, and I don't care how the fuck drunk you are, like, you will remember their name. Hello.
It's so funny.
Did you get like a certificate at least? Like, come on.
That's what I'm saying. It's a certificate.
I know. What's so funny to me is at the end, right? They're like, oh yeah, I chose you in Vegas, but she didn't even remember her name. Like, what?
And also, I know, like, we're all like this whatever the word is to like away from our beliefs. In the David Dobrik vlog, even though I hate David Dobrik now, when they went,
I have whiplash. Excuse me.
When they went to go get married in Vegas, right? They were very serious. Like, you can't be drunk. They had to make sure it's real. So I was like, okay, look. I know Vegas is a very like devil sins and whatnot, but someone didn't clock them when I realized how drunk they were. Like, you didn't smell the tequila on their breath.
No way.
I mean, like,
marriage was real. This is why I'm saying, this is what we've been all saying. Like, the main plot should have been about the marriage, because like we had no confirmation whatsoever that it's real. Like, they're just playing along. Like, oh yeah, we got married in Vegas of all places.
We ain't see no certificate. Like, you can have what you want, but like, I ain't see the
that
marriage.
Would have been interesting. That would. Sorry, I'm going to rewrite this book. Imagine if they had thought they had gotten married, but because they were so drunk, they didn't realize it. They had tried to make it work, and in the end, they realized that they had absolutely no obligation to one another at all. That is a good novel. That is the novel I would read.
Because there was no plot twist or shocking moment for us to be like.
I thought that was what was the book going to be about. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
like what Matthew said.
I would just
We should,
add in-
untag the author from the Instagram post in case she finds this live.
I got you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know why you did that. I was like,
Both
'cause-
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they're
No,
great, but also they started blocking people who gave them 3-star reviews, and so
I do not want to be perceived.
I don't want to be perceived.
I think this is our first universal kind of like sentiment about a book that we've had. Like I think this is our first time that we've all kind of felt a very
like
similar negative way.
Honestly, I like this less than the Harpy. The Harpy was more interesting.
The Harpy we had more to talk about that was like actually like unpacked.
Not the
Like the
Harpy
Harpy we
again.
convince ourselves to like. I could convince myself to like the Harpy more. Don't think I
Well,
could convince myself to like this more.
The Harpy was an actual onion to like this was just like, hey, 2014, let's talk about it. That's what I we
I'm sad I used my credit for
A
this.
throwback book, even though it's not. Feels like a throwback book.
and that's okay, because after this decade, I think we can go back a little bit.
Yeah.
Also, after because I read Red, White, and Royal Blue right before this, and very long ranty Goodreads review coming on that very shortly. I'm working on it, but this is why you don't set books at a specific time and specific place, because both Red, White, and Royal Blue and Honey Girl were like set in 2020, and I was like,
Little do y'all bitches
I
know.
think it's perfect. I think it is perfectly fine. I mean, and that is a problem because 2020 did not go the way we planned. I do think it is perfectly fine to date a book. I enjoy a book that is a time capsule of sorts because I find that to be very interesting. But you have to do it well. If your book is set in a modern day, it can't read like 2013 fan fiction. Like it can't.
Yeah.
You need to embrace the fact that like Zoom is a thing. That your cell phone exists. Like that needs to work, and it just didn't work.
honestly, I was like, the most unrealistic thing about this book is that she locked away her phone in a drawer for like 2 months and forgot about it. I was like,
That's unrealistic. We're all addicted to our phones. You need it for GPS, pay your bills, like know what bills you gotta like. That's unrealistic. And
she
also,
went full off the grove or off the grid and was hanging out in an orange grove for a couple months.
and you know what was annoying though? How like she was like, I want a job, I want to work, but then like we would continue to get nice offers.
She walked out of an interview. Like, I understand
So
they were being
unrealistic.
like, I understand they were being like a little, but like word's gonna get around. Like, honey, like.
Exactly. Like you want to be that black person.
She was being very picky. Like when Yuki was like, "Oh, why don't you just take the job like near the college if you want?" She was like, they're a small like
She's like,
starter."
it's not the best. I was like, fuck off.
Everyone
Like,
starts somewhere. Like, what is this coming? Where's this coming from? Did you want
I was
a job?
like, I don't graduate and then expect to get like the perfect best job. Like, I understand.
know.
Like, even if you graduate with a master's or a PhD, you gotta start somewhere and like work your way up. And she literally wanted it to be handed to her because she's like, I worked my ass off, I deserve it. And I was like, honey, like,
You still gotta work for it.
yeah.
I was not mad at her friends calling out on her shit. Was it rude? Yes, but like he was still like, dude, like you had this opportunity to get your fucking PhD and this is how you want to fucking act. Like that makes no sense. And for her to complain about not having the connections that these white folks have, I'm like, okay, well go out and make connections.
That's true. She has no connection except for her professor.
Very unrealistic that her one professor is like, hello, here's your saving grace after you like haven't spoken to me for months, or like when she sent out that email, like because she got the email about the teaching position, disappeared for a couple months and then was like, I'm ready for the position now. I was like, girl, it's filled, like it's done, you missed it, sorry.
Showed it.
This book was very coming of age for some reason, even though they're like in their 30s.
I mean, I'm all for. I think that's possible. Like, I would read a coming of age story if
True.
I'm coming of age as we speak. No, like, I think that it's like, it is valid. Like, I think it is very scary to be, because I think especially nowadays, to turn 30, back in the day, even 10 years ago, most people were married with kids. And that's just
True.
less and less of a thing. I could not imagine in 3 years being married with a child. Like, that's, especially in New York City, like, people don't do that. Like, that's just not a thing. So, like,
That's
I
too
do
much.
think that there's value in that kind of, like, second coming of age story
Yeah.
to be told.
Yeah, someone said I was
That's
kind of
true.
we
She
have
went to New York like straight like that and was just comfortable anywhere.
and she was
More
blessed. She was blessed enough to have her parents or her dad pay for her degree up to her master's. Like, does she not realize that is $100,000? Your master's degree alone costs $100,000.
It's so much.
That's the starting rate. So when it's like science, medicine, it's another like $500,000 per class. So I was like, sis, in the time that you're getting your master's degree, were you not TAing? Were you not making connections? Did you not get an internship at least? Put your foot in the door to get the best of the best job. Like, she had a guaranteed spot at her college and said, no, I'm good. Bye.
Yeah, she had no connection whatsoever.
I wish Raj was in the later part of the book, more after calling her out. I found the storyline was shoved in string begun. Yeah, I feel like the characters were back burner. Like they were there, and then they were not. Like they were only there to like help her get a little slap, and then she's like, okay, let's try this again, or this and that.
Yeah.
That's why we needed to be third omniscient at least.
So everybody go her in this attitude.
Yes.
Ew.
No, what I think. What's her star sign again?
She's a Virgo, which I was like, you do not represent my Virgo-ness.
Him in.
I do not associate with this Virgo energy.
I think her friend was an Aquarius. Him and Mira.
No. Yuki was an Aquarius because she said she was.
Okay, it clicks now because she don't like romance like that. So I was like, why does she
Yeah.
like get romance like that too?
Yeah, I'm good by myself.
So
Oh, I'm sorry.
Kiana.
okay, we're back. Okay, I am choosing to believe the Earth sign, and he is a Capricorn. Yeah, Rod, I feel like it's an Earth sign. Maybe a Taurus. I feel like maybe a little bit. And I
I
feel
have
like
no knowledge
Yes.
over astrology.
he knows me. Oh, okay. I feel like we could have gone a little bit into like astrology, not astronomy, astrology a bit with this because she was bringing in like the whole like pros with the stars and shit. I was like, okay, let's talk about it. Let's
Also,
bring this.
I understand that, you know, the romance of the stars, all the, you know, all that kind of stuff. But what the fuck did she actually want to do with it? Because
Yeah.
like what did she want to do? Did she want to research? Was there something she
Yeah,
wanted
she
to
said she
they were-
wrote like a research, and then we never got anything about that research and how she was so passionate about it.
She didn't seem passionate about it at all. And like, you know, like at least Yuki was passionate about her radio show. You know, fucking Grace, she went to like an astrology astronomy museum, and she's like, this is my home. I'm like, really? A fucking museum? Like what are you into? Why do you like astronomy? What do you want to
Like,
do
we
with your
have a Manic Dream Girl on hand. Could we have had a story of like astronomy versus astrology? Could like one have been more like uptight?
That's what
That
I'm
would've
saying.
been
Right?
great.
Whimsical? Like,
I expected Yuki to be like, "Oh, you're like whatever, like you're whatever sign you are," and be like, "That makes so much more sense." Like that would have been so funny and so like kept into the time period of where this is in. Because
And speaking of which, she was always talking about how she was always called out for her bullshit. And not her bullshit. She was always she was using her professor's work as her own. Okay, go to Twitter, write an article, go to the news station, talk about how you were asked to leave a national recognized convention about your work when you actually did. Like, it would have been an easy article to be like, hey, did all this work and I was dissed for it. Here it is. It's mine. Like, prove it. Like, it wouldn't be that hard. So I'm just
I mean, like, obviously, I feel like the author just chose astronomy as like her thing because like that was her thing, and I don't think like
what?
the comment.
This one? I love how
I don't
Right.
know.
That's so true. That is
Like,
so
could
true.
we have gotten a really cool like woman in STEM story? Like, could have gotten a really cool
That
woman in
could have
STEM
been what
story.
we got. I'm not gonna
There is-
lie. I really expected more astronomy, whatever, like something quirky
Because
about
also,
it.
like, when was the last time you read a book about a character who like learned it? Like, I don't think I know a single book with a character
Yeah.
who studied astronomy or is an astronomer.
Right.
And
That
I
isn't,
wanted
like,
more,
sci-fi.
but,
Like-
and, like it felt like Grace was an astronomer or whatever, like in title only. Like it didn't really feel
Yeah.
anything other than surface level. And I was like, I want, like, if you're gonna be an astronomer, fucking be an astronomer. Like, talk about it and shit. And like, she's so
Right.
worried about her job and her career and all that kind of stuff. And like, hello, uh,
All right.
More
it's
novels
gonna-
about women in STEM. Read Chemistry by Wei Wang.
Yeah.
That is a good novel about women in STEM.
Yes. There's also more rom-coms that I will probably link in the Discord if you need them or want them. I'll put them there. But it is about that time, ladies and gentlemen.
yeah.
About that time. So, what are words from leaving marks?
My leaving remarks. I wish that I had enjoyed this book, and that I had not spent my book of the month credit on it.
Me too. Me too. I wish
Oh,
I would have spent my book of the month credit on it, but I will give it this. Like, I think I would enjoy it if I was in a cheesy 2014 mood. Like, if I wanted to read those type of books, but I was not feeling it around this time. So yeah, I'm
Well, also,
bringing it back down to 2 stars.
Well, it's like one of those things. I feel like this book would have really been a hit with me if I had not read such other amazing queer romances. You know what I mean? It's like because I have such a rainbow of a spectrum of like stories that I've read, this one is lower on the list. Whereas like if maybe I hadn't read as many, I might really enjoy this. So like it's definitely something I can see people enjoying and like loving, and like I can see why people would, but like it just personally wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was not. I don't read books for this reason. Is the nicest way I feel like I can put it. Like this is not a book that is indicative of why I love reading.
Yeah.
And I just hope that our next pick next month is something that we all enjoy more.
I'm trying to read it in Spanish. Wish me luck with that. My brain hurts.
It'll be
Let's
fun.
go.
All right.
Yeah, this is July.
Oh yeah, Earth Eaters
Oh,
for
yeah.
July, and then we're doing Gear Breakers right for August. Alrighty.
We haven't announced that yet, but hello, there's the announcement.
Yeah, Gear Breakers for August.
Spoilers if you're watching live.
All right, thank you so much for joining us for our Honey Girl live show. This was a book, but we hopefully we'll be back with another fantastic read. We have Discord. We're on Twitter, Instagram. I will link our respective hosts' Instagram and whatnots in the thingy down below. So I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, wait. Okay.